From Soul Knight Prequel to Omega Strikers, Brotato, and many more, some of the best mobile games of all time released this year. So today, I'll be ranking the 47 most interesting AAA and indie mobile games of 2023 into one huge mobile games of 2023 tier list. And I'm also giving away a Bluetooth controller, but more on that later on. Some of these games were huge overhyped failures, but others were amazing hidden gems that you probably haven't even played yet. But by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which games to stay away from and which to definitely take for a spin. These are the games I have played this year, by the way, but let me know your own favorites in the comments and check out my games discovery platform minireview.io for hundreds of more actual great mobile games. And then let's kick the show off in no particular order with Arena Breakout, which is an escape from Tarkov-inspired tactical extraction shooter. Finally, 2023 broke the curse, and we got something other than yet another Battle Royale game. The gameplay is polished, the shooting and gun mechanics are definitely on par with other AAA shooters on mobile, and the game can easily be enjoyed as a free player. So to me, this definitely deserves an A-tier spot. Great game. Harry Potter Magic Awakened also finally got its global release this year. I actually had a great time with the PvE and open world of this game, and I like that the combat is a lot more engaging than most other card games. But the PvP is definitely pay to win, and I've heard that the monetization has gotten worse recently as well, so I can't place this higher than the C tier range. The next game is Roto Force, and if you like run and gun twin stick shooters as much as I do, I think you're gonna love this one. The game is split into missions with 11 rounds of attacks, and the boss designs are just incredible. It also has great touch controls and support for Bluetooth controllers, so overall it's easily one of the best indie games of the year, and I'm gonna place it in the A tier row. One of the late releases this year was Phantom Blade Executioners, a large 2.5D hack-and-slash action RPG with a ton of loot and lots of deep customization of our gear and skills. The combat is really well made, and I like that there's no auto systems in this game, and frankly, this could have probably scored an A tier if it wasn't for the monetization that does drag it down a little bit to the B tier row. Still a really good overall experience though. And listen, I love a good open-world survival crafting game, and I'm still waiting for a new Durango Wildlands. Hello, Nexon. But Dawnlands couldn't live up to that. I really wanted to like this game, and especially its online co-op is awesome, but unfortunately the combat is just far too clunky to be fun, which makes grinding for resources to craft better gear somewhat meaningless. If they actually fix that, this could easily become an A tier game, but for now I have to place it here in the D tier row. A game that didn't let me down though was the predecessor to Vampire's Fall Origins, called Vendir: Plague of Lies. This is an absolutely amazing old school party-based RPG with a large open world, an intriguing grim story, and a hardcore combat system. It's honestly just a must-play and one of the best RPGs I've played this year, so it gets a spot in the S tier row, and with a 100% positive user score on Minireview, it seems most agree with that ranking. Now, for a chance to win the Xbox Series X controller I mentioned in the intro, all you have to do is sign up to my free weekly mobile gaming newsletter called The Mobile Quest using the link down below this video. And by the end of January, I'll then pick a random winner and reach out via email to send you the controller as a belated Christmas gift. Next up is Lego Bricktales, which is a fun, high-quality adventure game where you use Lego bricks, surprise surprise, to build solutions to different puzzles. The game definitely does feel mostly targeted at kids, but it can easily be enjoyed by anyone who loves experimenting with creative puzzle solutions. It did have a few bugs and glitches here and there, but as a $5 premium game, it definitely deserves a B tier spot. Now, for those of us who are into first-person dungeon crawlers, Dungeon Ward also released this year. It's an offline playable old-school RPG with real-time combat, dungeons full of powerful monsters, and lots of loot with Diablo-inspired stats. Not too unlike Moonshade's RPG. It monetizes via a few incentivized ads and then in-app purchases for more premium currency, but it's never needed as a free player, so this definitely deserves an A tier spot. And then, my friends, the joke of the show, Dungeon Hunter 6. This used to be a pretty cool franchise back in the early smartphone gaming days, but Dungeon Hunter 6 is just a disaster. The gameplay is completely automated, the graphics are bad for a 2023 game, and the game has more pay-to-win systems than I've ever seen in any other mobile game. I've played thousands of mobile games. This is pretty much the worst one out there. So this is an obvious F tier game. Brotato, on the other hand, very positively surprised me this year. In fact, it's one of my favorite games in the reverse bullet hell genre, alongside 20 Minutes Till Dawn, Vampire Survivors, and of course, Magic Survival. I just love all the crazy weapons we can equip in Brotato, and the $5 premium version of the game has no ads and no additional in-app purchases. This is as good as they get in this genre, so I think it deserves an S tier spot. Another reverse bullet hell game that released this year was Mighty Doom. And this is a bit of a strange one because it's basically a more expansive version of Arch Hero with slightly more interesting combats, but the monetization really isn't great. So if you expected a full Doom game on mobile, you are in for a bit of a disappointment here, but as a better Arch Hero game, this one isn't horrible, so let's place it here in the C tier row. But we also got a new tower defense game in 2023 called Monster Tiles, and this one stands out among all the other tower defense games by mixing in some roguelike elements, which means we build a brand new maze in each playthrough, all while improving our stats and towers through permanent upgrades in between runs. But it also even has a completely fair and competitive mode where we compete against other players for the highest score possible. So overall, this definitely lands in the A tier territory. The next game is essentially a mix of an arcade golf game and Wordle, which means a single new course releases every day that everyone then tries to complete in as few shots as possible. The gameplay in this game is kept deliberately simple with just 3 clubs, no upgrades or unlocks, and just a single $4 in-app purchase to be able to play all previous levels. And I get that, but I would personally have loved just a bit more depth, so let's place it in the B tier row. Now, when Kart Rider Drift released, I was actually pretty excited about it. I mean, it was a kart rider with fair monetization, cross-platform play, and lots of fun multiplayer game modes. But unfortunately, the game is just kinda dead these days, so I can't place it higher than the C tier. Nine Nights was just great though. It's a truly unique action-adventure game with fluid combat, tough bosses, and lots of adventure puzzle elements, like climbing ropes and wall running. Not to mention its great PlayStation 2 era art style. This game is just such a unique experience, and at just $5 it definitely deserves an A tier spot. It was actually one of my personal favorite games of the year. Pickle Pete is another fun reverse bullet hell game that released this year, and it's basically a free-to-play alternative to Brotato with more game modes, content, and permanent progression. The biggest drawback is definitely its energy system, but to be fair, I never actually ran out of it, so for 30 to 60 minute play sessions, it doesn't really matter in this game. I will give this one a B tier score. Undawn is a massive open-world MMO survival shooter where we build our own base, collect resources, and slay thousands of zombies and bosses, either alone or via co-op. And that sounds great, right? Well, unfortunately, the game is more function than polish, and the gameplay experience just isn't great. Add to that a pay-to-win monetization, and I can't give this more than an E tier score. The idea is great, the game just isn't. A game that was great though is Perfect Grind, which is a fun sandbox skating game that even has a level editor so you can make your own skate park. The developers also really got the touch controls right in this one, and it's free to try with a $3 in-app purchase unlocking the full game. It is by far the best skateboarding game I've played on mobile, so this is an easy A tier game, and it also scored an 80% positive user score on minoreview.io. Another indie game that released this year is Endless Wander, which is a fun action roguelike. What really makes this one stand out though is that we can equip 3 skills and elemental modifiers, and during combat we then cycle through these attacks every time we tap the game's single attack button. This actually creates a really fun combat system, but the monetization isn't perfect in this game, so that will drag it down to the B tier row. Now, one of the most complex games to release this year was easily Limbus Company, which is a story-driven strategy gacha RPG. And I actually liked many things about this game, but it has such a confusing menu system and UI that I just can't get myself to place it higher than C tier. It just all became too confusing in the end, but I do think a few of you guys will love this game though. It's just very niche. Earlier this year, Combat Master Mobile also got its full cross-platform release when it finally launched on Steam for PC. I played it for the first time this year and was just blown away by how smooth and fast it is. Not to mention it can be played offline versus AI in addition to its highly customizable competitive online multiplayer. And maybe best of all, there are no loot boxes or pay to win in the game, so this is an easy A tier game and a great alternative to Call of Duty Mobile. But I can't exactly say the same for Snaker though. It is a more engaging version of Arch Hero, I'll give it that, made by the same developers as well, but it's monetized in the same heavy way, and I think this genre has run its course at this point, so I'll throw it here into the D tier section. But if you are looking for a bit of a casual action game, you might actually really enjoy Bullet Hell Heroes, which is a well-designed bullet hell game where we get to take 3 heroes into battle against lots of enemies and bosses. The gameplay is great fun, and with a $4 in-app purchase to remove the ads and instantly unlock all heroes, the monetization isn't bad either. The game eventually gets a bit repetitive, but it does deserve a spot in the B tier row. One of the best games this year though is easily lost words beyond the page. This is a beautiful puzzle adventure platformer with a strong narrative, unique gameplay, and a very high level of polish. It is honestly just a masterpiece, and I encourage you to go read the full review on minereview.io if you're interested. The game is free to try with a $6 in-app purchase unlocking the full version, and it definitely deserves an S-tier spot. We also finally got a Warcraft game on mobile this year, but it's a Clash Royale clone, because of course it is, right? All kidding aside though, the PvE in Warcraft Rumble is actually really good, and if that's all the game was, it could have probably scored B or maybe even A tier, but the PvP aspect is definitely pay to win, so I'll drag it down to the C tier row. A new game in the CarX series also launched this year called CarX Street, and it's actually one of the best single-player open-world racing games I've played recently. Not to mention the graphics are great and there's lots to do in the game. Unfortunately though, the multiplayer mode didn't work that well when I played the game, and the vehicles that are sold for real-life money are pretty expensive. So all in all, I landed here in the B tier row. Now, one of my personal favorite indie games this year is definitely Ruined Story, which is a great roguelike action game and a follow-up to Reverse Story. The gameplay is incredibly unique and the monetization can easily just be ignored, so while the English translation isn't perfect in this game, I will have to place this masterpiece in the A tier row. Now then, when it comes to Honkai Star Rail, I just know that some of you will be mad no matter where it's placed. But here's what I'll say about it. If you don't like the team-based strategy genre, you of course won't like this one. But if you do enjoy the genre, I think this is one of the best games out there, especially since it can easily be completed as a free player and is very polished. But on a personal level, I'll land it here in the B tier row, so let me know what you think about that. Monster Hunter now also released this year, and while it is not a full-blown Monster Hunter mainline RPG, which I'm still waiting for by the way, it is the best Pokemon Go alternative to come out recently. As a fantasy RPG fan, I definitely found the combat in this game more interesting than in Pokemon Go, but the monetization is a bit so-so, and for some reason the game just didn't keep me hooked. So part of me really wanted to score this A or maybe B tier, but I honestly have to throw it into the C tier category for those reasons. A game that positively surprised me though was Farlight 84. Going into this game, I gotta admit I thought it was gonna be just yet another Battle Royale game, but I came to appreciate its hero-based approach, the Bluetooth controller support, and its Apex Legends inspired gameplay. It also has no pay to win and a few game modes in addition to the Battle Royale, so for me this was an A tier experience. I can't exactly say the same for Souls though. The ads for this AFK arena inspired game looked awesome, but the actual gameplay was vastly different, and in a bad way. There was almost no story, low gacha pull rates, and overall just a horrible monetization system. So I can't recommend this one at all, and it definitely deserves an F tier spot. But in the world of idle games, we also got Idle Clans this year, which is a multiplayer incremental RPG inspired by the progression and skill system of RuneScape. So yes, it is very much like NimbleThor Idle, but just with a player-to-player marketplace, guilds, co-op, and other social systems. It is still a bit rough around the edges here and there, but I think it has great potential, especially for RuneScape fans like myself. So for now, I'll place it in the B tier row. The next game is, ironically enough, called The Last Game, and it's an action roguelike dungeon crawler inspired by indie hits such as Tiny Rogues and The Binding of Isaac. The gameplay is super solid, it has controller support, you can play it with up to 4 players in local co-op, and at just $2 it's a super cheap game as well. I had a lot of fun with this one, so it deserves an A tier spot. Now, one of my favorite games growing up was Pickle, and this year we got a game that mixed Pickle with typical roguelike RPG dungeon crawler gameplay called Roundguard. When I picked it up, I just could not put it down again, and it's one of my favorite games of the year this year, so the $7 premium price is, in my opinion, definitely justified, and I think it deserves an S tier rank. UFO 99 has got to be one of the strangest games of the year, but it's a decent quick time waster action game perfect for 2 to 3 players via local co-op. Unfortunately, it just never truly kept my interest, and I have a hard time ranking it higher than C tier, although I do appreciate the unique gameplay. The only Netflix game I've included this year is Laya's Horizon, but I have to bring it up because it's unlike anything I've ever played on mobile. So it's a 3D adventure flying game with lots of fun minigames to participate in and a beautiful atmospheric universe, not too different from Sky Children of the Light. The only real downside here is that you need a somewhat beefy phone to play it on, but it definitely deserves a spot among the A tier games this year. One of the few interesting interesting tower defense games to release in 2023 was Maze Defenders, which has us build our own mazes using walls and towers, just like in the good old Warcraft games. It's still a bit rough around the edges, but where it really shines is in its highly customizable towers. So, is it A or B tier? I think I'll land it here in the B tier row. Back in April this year, we also got Omega Strikers, which is basically a 3 vs 3 football action brawler game with no pay to win and a hero-based combat system. It's just such a unique concept for a game, and despite the somewhat toxic community, I think it does deserve an A tier rank. One of the most fun retro arcade games I've played this year is called A Slight Chance of Sawblades. It truly is just a chaotically fun game, but I do wish it had just a bit more content or different game modes to keep me hooked, so I landed here in the B tier territory. Now, despite lots of server issues in the first few weeks after launch, Soul Knight Prequel is actually a really fun action RPG that I've had a lot of fun with recently. This is a free-to-play game, but the monetization doesn't seem too bad at this point at least, and there's lots of content to dive into and a nice fluid combat system. So for now at least, it does land in the A tier row for me personally. Next up, I've got 7 really quick recommendations for games that released this year and you can read more about on minireview.io, but I never personally got to review, and those are Stone Story RPG, which is an amazing semi-idle RPG with a great story and an addictive core gameplay loop. Elderand, which is a beautiful Souls-like platformer RPG with controller support. Wavecade, which is a fun roguelike arcade shooter where we control the speed of time. Volturk, which is a gorgeous monster-catching action RPG with a beautiful open world full of quests. Legend of Keepers, which is a great offline playable dungeon management roguelite. Madness Endless, which is a fun action stealth game with roguelike elements and a dark cyberpunk aesthetic. And Aether Gazer, which is an RPG that seems inspired by Punishing Grey Raven and Honkai Impact 3rd. There you go, my friends, 47 games that released this year. Let me know what you think and check out minireview.io for lots more great mobile games actually worth playing.